On October 1st, during the government shutdown, CNN reporters, anchors, and hosts together ranted on the Tea Party Republicans, saying they were a suicide caucus that was hurting families. During the morning show, they decided that the shutdown was all Republican. That afternoon, on the Situation Room, all the Republicans who wanted to defund Obamacare were blamed as a whole.
In this article, it is showing media bias by story selection because it puts out a liberal point. Bias by omission is also portrayed in this article because it lacks facts and omits only one side of the story.
Style tea. Does that come with the pizza as well too, Susan?
Well, you know, Kara, this is a party for Obama bashers. I have to say that this is not entirely representative of everybody in America. This was organized by 3 different conservative groups. And if you look at some of the signs, Kara, let me introduce you to this guy. Would you come over here with me, please? You know, what is this supposed to mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, he's a fascist. The pirates...
Wait, why do you say he's a fascist? He's the president of the United States.
He's a fascist.
Do you realize how offensive that is?
I think he's a fascist.
Why?
Because he is.
In what way can you say that?
Because the real pirates are in the White House, in the Senate, and in the Congress. We need one-term limits for all these elected politicians.
Why be so hard on the president of the United States, though, with such an offensive message?
Because he is. He's a fascist.
Okay. All right. So, we've got a fascist.
Starting her reports on the Chicago Tea protest, the reporter begins by identifying the protesters as Obama bashers. She then begins to interview one of the protesters, continuously interrupting and asking for a valid explanation as to why the protester believes Obama is a fascist. She then moves on to the next protester, talking about Obama and his connection with Lincoln. Before he can finish his point, the reporter immediately cuts him off and gives her personal opinion, embarrassing the protester with his 2-year-old in front of live television. By concluding her report, she proclaims that the protesters are anti-government as well as anti-CNN. The report is biased beyond all reason by story selection. The reporter argues with the conservative protesters using a liberal point of view and attacking them to prove them wrong.
So as Russia invades Ukraine, the White House taking a very big hit with its critics. Republicans saying that President Obama has simply been outmatched by Russian President Vladimir Putin on this, and they say it's not the first time. That it also happened during the civil war in Syria and the nuclear talks with Iran.
At the beginning of this clip, bias by selection of sources can be seen, where the reporter states that critics of the White House are constantly slamming them for their inaction on the Ukraine issue. She uses the word they several times but never seems to identify who exactly she is talking about.
On Fox News Sunday, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Mike Rogers said that Vladimir Putin is essentially running circles around the United States at this point. Watch this.
I think Putin is playing chess, and I think we're playing marbles. And I don't think it's even close. So if you look at the nuclear negotiations, we got our fannies handed to us. They took tactical nukes out of the equation. Huge mistake, especially for our allies in the Baltics.
Later in the clip, the story shows further bias as they show an interview with a Republican who is also on the side of his party, furthering the claim that the issues in Ukraine are getting worse by the second, mainly because of Obama's failed policies.
This upcoming segment from Al Sharpton's Politics Nation demonstrates the left-wing bias this program has in response to right-wing comments. This specific example would be bias by spin. Bias by spin occurs when only one interpretation, in this case the comments made by Gary Johnson, with the exclusion of the other, is present. Sharpton attempted to make the liberal ideology look better in this situation.
Most folks who watched last night's Republican debate agree that the best line belonged to the new face on the stage, Gary Johnson.
My next-door neighbor's 2 dogs have created more shovel-ready jobs than this current administration.
It's a good line, even if it isn't really true. The original stimulus created 2.9 million jobs, and the American Jobs Act would create another 1.9 million jobs. But the line's gotten Gary a lot of buzz, a lot of great buzz, in fact. He's even the #1 trending topic on Google.
Only the negative comments were taken from Gary Johnson, and they were spun around to make the conservatives look bad to the public. No consideration of what Mr. Johnson had to say prior to that clip was taken.